Hey everyone, this is Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com, and I'm back here with another hand history review for you guys. So today's hand was sent to me by Jens from Germany. He's got pocket 10s in middle position in a 6-max NL25 Zoom game. So let's jump right into the action. So it folds the Jens there, once again in middle position, pocket 10s. Pretty standard open there to around 3 times the blind. Not really a whole lot more to say about that. It's just totally standard, of course. So it folds to villain 3 in the big blind, and the information that Jens gave me about this guy is that essentially he's an unknown. If you guys have played a bunch of Zoom poker before, zone and fast forward is what it's called on other sites, you'll know that it's difficult sometimes to build up a good sample on the players you're playing against, because the player pool, especially on PokerStars, the player pool is just so big that a lot of times, you might only see a guy once every 20 hands or 50 hands or something. So it can be really difficult. It's a lot different than a regular table where you're gaining information on them every single hand. So this happens. So basically this happens a lot in Zoom style games. You're playing against an unknown opponent. Basically, all that means is it's just going to make it a little bit more difficult for us to create sort of a custom strategy based on player type, because we just don't know anything about the player. So we just have to play more of an ABC style. So let's see what villain 3 does. So villain 3 actually 3-bets in this spot here. So once again, I'm just going to sort of fall back to my default strategy here, which is basically going to be to call. With pocket 10s here in position, I think this hand is just way too strong to ever fold in this spot. But I don't think that I want to 4-bet either. I don't think that. I think it's just overplaying our hands. Now, once again, like I said, this is exactly what I was just talking about. If we had some information about this player, if I knew he was like a super loose aggressive player or something like that, I might actually 4-bet here. Or if I knew he was just a massive nit who only plays aces and kings, I might even fold here. So that's just not really an option here, though, of course, because we're playing against an unknown opponent. So I think it's just a standard call here and go to see a flop. So it's a pretty good flop for pocket 10s. There's only one overcard with the jack there. It's a pretty draw-heavy board, of course, though. There's a lot of straight draws. There's the flush draw, of course, with the clubs. So let's see what villain 3 does. He comes out for a pretty typical 2/3 pot c-bet. And so what should Jens do in a spot like this? Well, once again, I think the thinking is pretty similar to Preflop, is that against an unknown opponent, I really only think there's one option here, which is to call. Once again, I think our hand is just a little too strong to be folding at this point. We caught a reasonable flop. If it was ace, if the flop came ace, king, queen, for instance, I would probably just lean more towards folding in a spot like this, just because there's so many potential hands that beat us. But in a spot like this, on this kind of board with our hand, I think it's just a pretty standard call in this spot here. And I don't really want to raise either, because just like Preflop, I think we're just overplaying our hand a little bit. So Jens agrees, and we go to a turn. So it's a pretty good one, obviously. We hit our set there, but it does complete a number of draws, including the flush draw, of course. So it's a little bit of an interesting card. What does villain 3 do? He checks to us. So what should we do in this spot? Well, set or no set, this is a spot where I would be betting often. I talk about this all the time on my blog and in my books, is betting the turn when they check to you with a wide range, because I think there's so many players at the micros that I just call them like one-and-done players. They'll fire on the flop, and then they'll just kind of check, fold, and give up on the turn. So it almost doesn't even matter what you have. But we have a set here, so we definitely should be betting for value in this spot here. Now, I think some people will look at this board and they might think about checking behind here. Guys, that is a total disaster. Do not ever think about, don't get scared in a spot like this that, oh my god, there's 3 clubs on the board, or he could have the straight, he's slow playing me. You always cross those kind of bridges when you come to them in poker. You always want to be betting here. Like I said, I'm making a bet here with tons of complete air balls all the time, so when I got a good hand, got to be betting. Now, Jens does agree. With that, he makes a bet. However, I am going to disagree with the bet sizing. I just think it's way too small. Actually, first off, I think that this bet sizing pretty much prices in a hand like ace-king with the ace of clubs, so that's not really good. And I just think we're missing value from so many hands that'll call more. Like if he has top pair, If he has some sort of combo draw, like maybe 9-8 with the 8 of clubs or something like that. I just think that these hands are definitely going to call a little bit more, and we just want to get more in the middle with our hand that is very, very likely to be the best at this point. And also, one important point that's going to factor into the hand later on is just sort of the how we're setting up the pot size on later streets, the river, of course. When we bet a bigger amount here, it really just creates a better situation with the stacks on the river to get the most in the middle, and I'm gonna explain more about that in a second. Villain 3 does in fact make the call, and we go to the river. The river is obviously a pretty good one because it gives us a boat. It also, I think, like I said, he could be hanging on with a lot of different top pair type hands. For instance, Ace Jack, King Jack, Queen Jack, and all of those hands now have a very, very good second best hand on the river. So what should we do here? Well, obviously, we have a full house, so obviously we're betting. But like I said, if we had a bet on the turn a little bit more, this would have set up a situation where Villain 3 maybe only has, say, $12 left and the pot is $20. And it just creates a much better situation where he can stack off all of those second best hands. Remember, he could have hands like aces or kings that I think now, given the stack size, the pot and the stack size right now, I think if we bet $16, he can let go of his aces here. But if the pot's $20 and he's only got $12, maybe he stacks the aces. If you guys are catching what I'm saying. So that's another, like I mentioned about the turn bet sizing, it's something that really factors in, and it's important because bet sizes on the river, of course, are the highest on average, and it's really, really important to get stacks in as often as possible, especially if he's got some sort of reasonable second best hand that he can call with. So we could just go for an $8 bet here and try to get calls out of his entire range, and maybe a couple even hero calls that think we're bluffing or something, or we could just go for the whole thing. Actually, Villain 3 does check, sorry, to us here. So, but Jens decides to go for the whole thing and just ship, which, I mean, I think that I basically would have to agree with that. I mean, I think that there's merits to either, but like I said, just going back to the turn, I just like the bigger turn bets so that we don't even have to decide between them. We would be just shoving on the river here about $12 into 20 instead of this. But as it stands on the river, I think it is fine to just shove here or bet $8 or something like that. And so in this specific hand, Villain 3 does decide to make the call. And what on earth can he have? He's got a hand that beats us. So unfortunately, this is just kind of one of those spots that's going to be unavoidable in poker. Guys, you got to always remember that hands like this, you're always going to be on the good side, the bad side. All of this stuff kind of levels out, kind of evens out in the long term. Somebody commented on one of my last videos that people are always sending me bad beats and coolers. And, it is true to a certain extent. I think that if you look at poker forums, you'll see a lot of the same thing where people are just constantly posting bad beats and stuff like that. And it just kind of is what it is. I think a lot of people want to know if maybe you could have got away in a spot like this. And honestly, the answer is just no. Everyone, if you're not stacking off here, that's indicating some much, much bigger problems in your poker game. The only thing that I'm always concerned about is the process in poker, the decisions that we're making, the bet sizing. And like I said, I think that the stacks need to go in 100% in this hand. But I think that the turn bet sizing could have been a lot better. Other than that, we ran into the absolute top end of his range. Cooler situation. The other thing to always remember, guys, like I said, the shoe is always going to be on the other foot sometime down the road. The only thing you ever need to ask yourself in a spot like this is, if we have the Jack-9 and he has the pocket tens, does he ever get away from his hand? I think you guys already know the answer to that. Of course he doesn't. Nobody's folding a full house at these stakes, as they shouldn't. Really at any stakes, to be honest. Unless it's just crazy, crazy deep stacked like that hand I talked about a couple weeks ago. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I got to say on this. With hands like this, they're almost just laughers because they're just spots where the money's going in. And sometimes you're going to be on the good side. Sometimes you're going to be on the bad side. If you play enough poker, it'll level out in the long run. But as always, I want to know what you guys think. So let me know your thoughts on this hand in the comments below. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel here if you want to see lots more micro stakes poker strategy videos like this. And lastly, make sure you download a copy of my free poker ebook. It's called Massive Profit at the Micros. It's the top link in the description below. It's a roughly 50-page little guide that'll give you my complete strategy on how I beat these stakes. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. This has been Nathan Williams with BlackRain79.com.